All right, so we're back again.
Yes, we are back.
Oh man,
Another Tuesday night.
got some Indian food in my belly. I am ready to go.
We love Indian food.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you're here in the Saint Pete area, gateway to India.
Yeah,
That's
it's
my
really
favorite.
good. It is. It's really, really good.
Yep.
We love it.
You know, this is one of those few days, kind of seldom, that we kind of go separate ways and go do separate things during the day. But
Yes.
I know you had some separate things to do today. I did a few things.
Hey, Dan. Hi, Philip.
And
Hope you're all doing good.
I had a good walkthrough.
Good. Yeah, we had a closing today.
Yep. So, the purpose of a walkthrough is so that the buyer can make sure that everything still looks the same as it did when they bought the place or agreed to buy it, so that they can go straight from there to the closing, sign all the paperwork, and everything's good. So we did that. Of course, they walked through. Everything was fine. It looked exactly the same way as it did.
Dan says hi,
before.
and Hector says hello, and Vanessa and Scott Harding. Scott, we're going to see you on Friday.
Excellent.
Yes, and Ernie and Norma. And Joanne Brasio, I'm going to see your girls on Thursday. So that's all good.
Wow, that's great.
We have a busy week.
So had some questions this week about bank-owned property. And so that's going to be what we're leading off with tonight.
Sure.
Is REOs, foreclosures, and short sales. And we'll start with REOs because that's kind of a term that you don't hear out in the real world, but realtors use it a lot. So
yeah, actually, we just had one recently.
It's not a band name.
No.
What's REO stand for, Pat?
So it's a real estate owned, but it means the same thing as a bank owned foreclosure. That's really what it means. And there's two types of foreclosures.
Well, that would be a BOF, wouldn't it?
I guess so.
I guess it sounds better, REO.
I don't know. But there's two types of foreclosures, and one is a short sale, and then one is an REO.
So what's the difference? What's a foreclosure? That's one that the bank took back. I think everybody knows that. Yeah, but how do they take it back?
They snatch it.
Kind of depends on who you ask as to.
Yeah, they if you don't pay your mortgage and if you don't pay that, then the bank is going to take your home from you, and they will foreclose.
No kidding.
No. No, I'm not kidding. So yeah. So we have some REOs. We've had short sales. The difference between REO and a short sale is the short sale is owned by the bank, and it takes forever on a short sale. We had a short sale a few years back, and it took over a year for our buyer to buy that short sale.
Yeah.
And the other thing with the short sale is that, the bank wants to get as much money as they can from it. So there's a lot of negotiating back and forth. And it's also subject to third-party approval, which means that they may not even accept what you offer.
Let's back up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about, how a short sale is structured and what it means. Mm-hmm. One thing is that this was really popular a few years ago, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So here's the deal. So you remember when the market crashed, a lot of people owed more for their house than it was worth.
Right.
So there's no way they could sell the house and be able to pay off the mortgage. So that's where short sale comes in. The bank agrees to take less money than what is owed for the house.
Yeah.
So let's say, you're upside down in your house.
I have an example.
Oh, you got one?
I do. So John Doe buys a house for $500,000, and he makes a down payment on the house and borrows $400,000 to pay the rest. And then 2 years later, John loses his job. He's got to sell his house and move. However, the housing market has now shifted, and the house is worth only about $300,000 right now. So he paid $5. It's worth about $3. And even if he sells the house for $3, he would only pay off only $300,000 of the loan and would still owe $95,000 because he owes $395,000. So the way that's why they call it a short sale, because they're short money to pay off the bank. And so a short sale, it says here, often occurs when someone has filed for bankruptcy, which is very true, and can no longer make their mortgage payments. And so if John were to sell the house for $300,000, he would need to get the bank to agree to write off the $95,000. And one other caveat with that is that years ago, with that $95,000, that wasn't something that was taxed. But now I believe that it's taxed.
Taxed as income?
It's taxed somehow.
No way.
I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, and I'm not an expert, of course.
That's a CPA question, I guess.
That's a CPA question, but I remember hearing about that, and that was really bad. So, yeah. So if John finds a buyer at $300,000, his lender needs to approve the sale. And like I said, the one that we had took over a year, and it just took forever. And our buyer was lucky in a situation. So Philip has a question: why do banks let properties sit and rot? So that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So why do they let them sit and rot? Well, what's your answer to that, Pat? Before I open my big mouth. Is it because they're stupid?
The banks are not like regular people. They're just a corporation, and they don't really care about the neighbors or anybody around. So we've seen it a few ways. We've seen it where someone has stayed in the house for 10 years and haven't made any mortgage payments. And, you know, they're not going to do maintenance really on the house, but at least a family is in there and keeping up at the house a little bit, like doing the lawn and stuff like that. So we've seen it both ways, where they've just, you know, the people leave and, you know, then it's bad. But what is your feelings on it?
All right. So here's my theory.
Yeah.
And it's just a theory, but it's just gears turn slowly because it's a big organization.
Yeah, that's true.
And the whole process from the time that they serve notice to the people that are living in the house until they actually can take possession of that house is a lengthy process. So in the meantime, those people are not very likely to be taking care of that property if they even stay there during this process. So it gets in a state of disrepair, and usually that's happening way ahead of that, because the people who are living there, if they don't have enough money to pay their mortgage, they're certainly not going to have enough money to keep the property up. Yeah. And then at some point, I think people just get to a point where they know it's eventually going to get taken away from them. So they've got no reason to care. Yeah,
that's very true. Mm-hmm. We've seen it in a lot of situations, and you know, there's less of them though.
Yeah. Now we don't see as many short sales right now.
No.
Because those pretty much got cleared out.
Yeah.
The market's back up to where it was before the crash.
I do have one here. So.
Oh, well, I don't know what you have in your little stack.
I have a little stack.
Your secret stack?
I have a secret stack.
All right. Well, so surprise me. What's in your little stack here, Pat?
So I went online just to see how many foreclosures, REOs, short sales there were. And in Pinellas County, there are 133,000 REOs, foreclosures and short sales. And that's not a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, years ago, we had so many foreclosures and REOs.
Well, hold up. Before you get into that.
Yeah.
We've got an answer here from Barry, and he sounds like he knows what he's talking about too.
Oh, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, debt forgiveness is technically income, and yes, it was tax. And then he goes on with some other stuff that I don't understand.
There was a deferral or amnesty at the height of the foreclosure to get the economy going again. And he's not sure if there's still a deferral or amnesty on the books now, which is true. So that $95,000 that we talked about that the bank wrote off, that is going to be taxed as income.
Hey, thanks, Barry. Appreciate you.
Barry, thanks so much. I knew there was something like that. And
yeah,
Maddie,
we always have to be careful about not answering stuff that's outside our area of expertise. Yeah. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So my cousin Philip said that these houses are starting to collapse. So he sees, houses where there was foreclosure and the banks are just kind of letting it go and the family's not in it anymore. And they're just collapsing around him. And that's really unfortunate.
Well, folks at the bank, they don't ever actually physically see the property.
They don't. No.
They just know about it on paper.
Yeah, they just know about it on paper. So it's
okay. So I didn't want to interrupt you there, but that was a good
so there was 133, and
well, that's a lot less than there used to be.
Yes, so they range from a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, actually in Clearwater. You want to know the subdivision name?
Well, what's the price on it?
$38,500.
Oh, awesome! Where's that?
It's a place called Pleasure World.
Pleasure
I cannot
World.
wait to say that tonight.
Oh, there's some jokes in that.
I thought that was awesome.
So you don't. I guess maybe I shouldn't comment on that.
No, we'll just keep going. So
is that the clothing optional?
I don't know. It's called Pleasure World.
Pleasure World.
Always in Pinellas in Florida, we got the weird stuff going on.
Who wouldn't want to live there?
I don't know. And then the highest price is $799, and that's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. It's on Clearwater Beach, and it's Mandalay Beach. And so I printed out the multiple listing service paperwork for it, and that is a short sale. And days on market, 256 days on market.
Why would that be?
Because they just take forever. One of the things that it does say in here is very important when dealing with a short sale or even a foreclosure. Short sale listing price may not be sufficient to cover all encumbrances, closing costs, or other seller charges, and sale of property at full listing price.
What does all that mean?
May be conditioned upon approval of third parties. So it means that you may get stuck with taxes or more closing costs, or even if you agreed on a price of a full listing price of $799,000 on this property, you may not get it for that. The bank may turn around and say, we want $900.
I was just talking with a colleague at that walkthrough this morning, and she was telling me about one of those situations that she just had, and the folks had a $10,000 surprise that there were some encumbrances.
Yeah, so that just happened. So
yeah, now it turned out okay for them. It still worked out to be a good deal, but but boy, that was an unpleasant surprise.
Yeah,
for them, I'll bet.
Investors do good with short sales and foreclosures because they're not going to live there. But if you have a case where you're selling your property and you're depending on this property to go through. As you can see, 256 days on the market. That's a really, really long time to wait for a home.
So I guess the real question is, why would anybody want to even get involved in this? So before, when Pat and I were having dinner, we were talking about, okay, so, what are the pros and cons of this? So we can kind of, help people decide if they want to pursue something like this. And I was like, okay, so what are the pros? And Pat's like, there aren't any.
All right, so Scott Harding is a next homie from Maine, and he said, Pleasure World at $38,000. Can we look at that Friday?
Yes.
And Brenda is hi from Sarasota's Next Home Excellence.
Oh, good.
So I'm glad we have some next homies on here. Yes, we can go look at it. I don't think you want that.
I got to tell you, Scott, I want to see that property just because I want to see what Pleasure World looks like.
Oh my God.
I swear I'm going to drive out there just take some selfies.
Oh gosh.
I hope there's a sign.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Only Florida.
Yeah, that's
Only
true.
Florida.
So anyway, like getting back to serious on this, the pros, really the only pro that I can think of is you might possibly get a good deal. And even that I don't think is very likely at the moment, the way the market is. Do you?
I don't believe so.
I'm not seeing it.
I like clean deals.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll get around to that.
We'll get around to that, what a clean deal means.
So what are the cons? What are some of the things that would make somebody not want to? I know you've got a long list, and I do too.
So
we'll hear yours first.
Yeah. So a lot of times when it's a foreclosure, the people are really angry about it, even though it was probably their own fault, but that's okay. But
they sabotage.
They sabotage. They put concrete down the toilets, or like we just had one recently where the toilet was removed out of one of the bathrooms. They take all the light fixtures. They may even take all the kitchen cabinets. So they may do things that really jeopardize, just bad stuff, bad stuff going on. And thankfully, we have good inspectors that, if you heard last week, they really do find everything. So absolutely, we recommend a full inspection. If there's a pool, I would definitely get a pool inspection done, a termite inspection. And the unfortunate thing with this is that no matter what you find, if you need a new $40,000 roof even, the bank is not probably going to negotiate with you. It's the deal and that's it.
Probably?
Yeah, probably.
Probably, definitely not.
Yeah, they're not going to really negotiate.
No.
So it gets to be a real issue. So yeah. And I don't think they're really good deals unless you're an investor and you're going to do a lot of the work yourself, or you're a GC, then, maybe you can get a good deal. But and it doesn't seem to be like there's much negotiation with the bank either. It's not like dealing with a human being. And I know that sounds terrible because I know there's another human being on the end of the transaction, but they don't look at it that way. It's just
they don't have any emotions.
No, there's no emotions, and it's strictly numbers.
It's an emotionless, soulless person.
Yeah. So Scott is an investor, and he likes REOs once the people are out, and short sales not so much. No, because the short sales, like this one here, Scott, it's 256 days on the market. Priced at $7.99. It's on Clearwater Beach. So, and the problem with that, like I said earlier, is that you may find, encumbrances on the property that were not disclosed, or, you may just never know what really you're up against. Like you just said today, we had a walkthrough today in a closing that Chuck went to, and the other agent was talking about that her buyer had to pay $10,000 more.
Yeah, a little surprise.
A little surprise at the end.
And actually, you had forgotten, but I reminded you at dinner that the house that we live in now was actually a short sale.
I forgot about that.
And that was quite a process.
It was.
We had to get lawyers involved, and
we did.
Threats, and
lawyers
are good at threatening people.
I love that.
They just make it sound so
they
firm.
do. Yes. So that's good that we hear from an investor. Scott is an investor, so he does like REOs, and like he said, once the people are out. So what are some of the cons besides what I just said?
Well, how about I tell our latest story?
Yeah,
they're good. They're good for investors, but this is just our opinion on all this, because it's opinion time,
right?
So our little live thing, our opinions go. But if you're going to live in that property, it may not be a really great deal. So we had one person not too long ago who decided they want to buy a bank-owned property, and they were going to have to sell their house in order to do the deal. So the idea was, get that bank-owned property under contract, then hurry up and sell their house so that by the time the bank thing closed, they'd have the cash and they'd be able to do it. So far, so good. It's all sounding great. But in this particular case, we got the bank, they accepted the contract, but then they sent their little addendum. Now, here in Florida, a standard real estate contract is 12 pages. Pat, you know how many pages the addendum was? Do you remember?
I do. It was 14 pages.
So the addendum was longer than the actual contract. And the thing is that if you read through all these 14 pages, which is one of the things we get paid for, is basically our buyer was going to give away all their rights. They would have no rights whatsoever.
Yeah.
And there were 3 areas that were particularly troubling to me anyway. And one of them was that the bank could cancel the contract at any time, all the way up to the day of closing. They could cancel for any reason. And in fact, they didn't even have to give a reason. They could just cancel it. So that could put a big wrench in the gears for someone who is planning on living there. Mm-hmm. And another thing that was a big deal was that, they're going to give you the title to the property, but they're not guaranteeing that it's a clear title to the property. So there might be some unpaid liens. There might be some municipal payments, maybe some fines or whatever that hadn't been paid. And guess who was going to be responsible for that? And then the scariest part of all to me was if somebody else at a later date had a claim against the property, you're on your own. And I'll tell you a little quick story. The house I lived in before I met Pat, kitty corner across the street, there was a couple and they were way behind on their mortgage. So that house got foreclosed on and they moved out. An investor bought the property and fixed it all up. But next thing I know, the old couple is back in the property. And I'm like, what the heck happened here? Because, I knew they didn't buy it back or anything because they didn't have any money. Well, it turns out what the bank did, the way that they took that property back from them, they did something wrong with the paperwork. There was something illegal about it or something improper. So the investor actually had to give the property back to the original people.
All fixed up. Thanks very much for fixing up my old house.
Now, I don't know the particulars of that, but if that investor had the same addendum that our guy was being given, he would have had to just give that property back and he'd have zero recourse and it'd just be, well, sorry about that. And that 14-page
addendum, I got my yellow highlighter and I'm like, okay, you need to take this to your attorney.
And I got to tell you, sometimes it's the houses we don't sell that I'm the most proud of because, this guy and his wife, they really wanted to buy this house. They did. Really had their heart set on it. And, it was kind of funny because, we're sitting there and I'm maxing out my salesmanship skills to talk them out of buying a house.
And we would have sold their house too. So
so we actually lost 2 deals.
We did, but I don't care.
But, it
was a bad deal all over.
It would have been a disaster for them and their family. They could end up homeless before the whole thing was over. And man, So we have some people online and Brenda is saying back in 2011, 2012, there was so many foreclosed properties that were destroyed by either the owner or vandals. They took sinks, toilets, cabinets, AC units, wires from the walls, etc. And we have actually seen those here. Absolutely, that's true. Yeah. And not even that long ago, maybe 2014, even 2015, we still have seen that. And then Barry says one thing on a foreclosure is you may not get to look inside before closing. Title work ahead of time is important in calculating your offer price, and sometimes liens may fall to you, which is true. And there's also risk if it has still the owners or tenants in there and they don't want to leave. So you have to then go through an eviction process, which costs cha-ching, money. Yeah. So you're going to, So we have a few people. Meredith joined us, Tracy and Sylvia, and Shane Campbell joined us. So I'm happy about that. One of those properties I saw, in fact, I don't remember if you were with me on this one or not, but the former owners, they pooped in all the toilets and left it. But that was after pouring cement down all the toilets and all the drains.
Oh my God.
And then they pooped in all of them. So you can imagine what that place smelled like. Then they took a hammer and they broke every single piece of tile on the floor.
Wow. And
then took the same hammer and just put holes all through the walls like Swiss cheese and on the ceilings. And they messed that place up. And
I just can't even imagine.
Oh, man. Oh, and then they had porno magazines strewn all over the place.
That must be from Pleasure World.
Yeah, that was Pleasure World. Yeah. I'll tell you, it's funny how some things just stick in your mind. And, I love this job. This is the best job ever.
Oh, fix that for me.
Fix what? What's going on?
I went all the way down too far.
Oh,
too far. There you go.
Okay,
We're trying to read your comments.
Yeah, trying to read the comments. And
Hi,
questions.
David. Glad you joined us.
Well,
if you have any questions, we're talking about foreclosures and REOs, short sales, and just some things that can happen, pros and cons.
I think, really the big takeaway in this whole thing is have a lawyer look over that contract before you sign it.
Yeah.
So that you understand all the ramifications.
Yeah, we have a real estate attorney.
Yeah, because we're not lawyers.
No.
So we
don't give any advice at all.
We're not able to give legal advice.
Nope.
We can give practical advice.
Yeah, but not legal advice at all.
No.
So in that particular case, we did refer him to our attorney, to ask about the 14-page addendum,
and they still wanted to sign it.
And they still wanted to sign it. But that addendum, which was very interesting, it superseded everything that was in the original contract.
Yeah.
So that contract was just kind of null and void. So I don't know if anybody has done a lot of foreclosures here, and they're interesting.
You just have to be careful. And my opinion is foreclosures and short sales are really good for investors, but they're not good for regular folks that are not in the business doing real estate investing.
Yeah.
Because, an investor is going to have a lot more knowledge about these kind of things and know about all the potential landmines in the pathway. So, if, I hate to say, like, make sure you get really good agents like us, but a case like that.
And other next homies.
It's particularly important that your agent has some knowledge in these areas.
That's true.
And
yeah. So we talked about a clean deal. You want to say what that's about?
Oh yeah, Pat's always talking about, I love clean deals.
I love clean deals.
What exactly is a clean deal?
So when you look on multiple listing service,
are those the ones that don't smell like poop?
Like this one says special sale, it'll say short sale, or it'll say foreclosure, or it'll say something else. But if it says none, N-O-N-E, I love those, because that means that there's no things to be worried about with that part of it. There's no short sale, there's no REO, there's no foreclosure, there's nothing that is going to like get in the way. It's not an auction house, So
you're dealing with an individual that owns the place.
Kind of
most likely anyway.
Yeah, or it could be an LLC too.
Yeah, sometimes it's a company.
Yeah, it could be a limited liability company. But at least you're dealing with a person and not like a bank and that kind of thing. So that's what I mean by a clean deal. And the other thing is we look for permits, and we look for any kind of things that might be in the way of making it a clean deal as well. Mm-hmm. We try to do a lot of homework even before going out and looking at the house.
I guess if you want to put in technical terms, we don't like anything screwy.
Right.
That's how I would say it.
Yes. Yeah, we don't like screwy deals. We like to have clean deals because they just make it so much easier for the buyer or the seller even, and just better all around, I think.
Yeah. Well, we were looking through our statistics for last year. We're doing our year-end, kind of planning thing for this next year, and we had 100% of our deals closed last year, and which is a really good percentage, because a lot of deals they fall apart at the end, especially. And one of the reasons why all of them closed is because we're really careful about looking out for these things that can go wrong and planning ahead for them.
Yeah, right from the beginning. Whenever we're going to look at a house, I go to public records and see what I'm up against, and see when the AC permit was pulled, or hot water heater, or when a renovation was done. And you're able to pull even further than that.
Oh, you're fanatical about that stuff.
I am the permit queen, and that's okay, because I'm not going to change. So you can even pull up to see the whole permit and see that it's closed out, because that's important too, because we have found open permits on homes, and that's something that seller is then going to have to close out.
Yeah, because that can cost money.
Absolutely. Yep. So you got to be careful in your transactions. A house is usually your biggest transaction in your life, and you want to have people who are watching your back for you.
That's for sure.
Yep.
Man, I can't believe it's been 30 minutes already.
Has it? Wow. Okay.
Anybody have any last minute questions before we wrap it up for the evening?
Yeah, you can ask us anything.
Yeah, you can ask us anything. We will give you an answer.
We'll give you an answer.
The answer might be, I don't know.
Yeah, the answer might be, I don't know.
That's great. Well, thanks a lot for watching, you guys. I hope you got something out of this. And of course, if you have any real estate questions or anything you didn't get an opportunity to ask, just send us a message. We're happy to help anybody.
Sure.
No strings attached. We're here to help. We really are.
Yeah, if you need to look up some permit information, even for your own home, you don't know how to do it, just give us a shout.
Yes, indeed. So have a beautiful evening, everybody. We're going to be back here next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's our new thing. Every what is
Every
it?
Tuesday.
Yeah, last week I said Thursday. It started with a T.
That's true.
But
No,
so
it's every Tuesday.
Tuesday. I'm
It's
gonna get
7.
it right if it kills me. Yeah, Tuesday at 7 Eastern. Every week we're going to be here, sitting on the couch here with Lucky the dog, and
Lucky the dog.
talking about real estate. So have a wonderful evening, and thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Bye.
Oh, gotta click it.